Hello and welcome to our fourth program in the series, Esther Lee, Women Power Renewal. Esther Eleanor Lee was born on August the 23rd, 1937, Lee's estate, Montserrat, in the Leeward Islands in the Caribbean. She moved to England on March the 13th, 1956, and settled in Finsbury Park, North London, before moving to Slough in Berkshire with her eldest son, Rudi Page. Esther later had 4 other children. During the early 1960s, Esther Eleanor Lee became one of the most popular hairdressers in Slough for Saturday night parties because of her skillful use of the pressing comb, popularly known as the hot comb. Esther Eleanor Lee passed away on November the 5th, 1982, 5 months before her son coined the name and coordinated the first and the original Afro Hair Beauty Exhibition organised by Dyke Dryden at Grosvenor House, Park Lane, London, on the 17th through to the 18th of March, 1983. Ever since then, he has dedicated the exhibition to her memory and his forthcoming book, Hot Comb on a Paraffin Lamp. So this evening is really about us recognizing the role of women and mothers and the sometimes unexpected learning that you may pick up as a child, and then somehow later on in adulthood, the connection is understood. So this platform is about celebrating some women who we work with in one way or the other. And also to close the show, we have a couple of men, great friends of mine and business partners, Dr. Dwayne Neal, and of course, Derek Clement. So I'm going to start off, and I'm really pleased with this part of the work that Karen Hamilton-Bannis has done. So Karen, over to you. Thank you.
Hi. I don't need to repeat. I'll introduce myself. I'm Karen Hamilton-Bannis. I am presently a print designer. I started life as a art and design teacher. I retired from that when my mum got ill, started to look after her. Now, this collection is called the Windrush Legacy Print Collection. And what I'm showing you now, funny enough, is, I'm going to talk about this later. This is a cushion, a print that was dedicated to Rudi's mum. And I designed the print. I had to pull teeth, but I designed a print for Rudi's mum, asking about her favorite colors and the things that she liked. And one of the things, and Rudi sent me her story, and one of the things I admired most, which he never mentioned about her journey, she was 19 years old when she left Montserrat by herself, traveled on a ship all the way to England. And I thought, at 19, would I be doing that? Would any of us be doing that at 19? To go somewhere you absolutely have no idea what you're going to see. And I was really chuffed when I said, Rudi, can I please design a print for you? Because the funny thing is, again, this print is about our mothers. I started designing prints when I retired from teaching. I retired early from teaching. And my mom died the following year. I retired at the end of 2018, and my mom died in 2019. And one of the sad things about it is that there was a time when I didn't understand her very well. And as you grew to understand the motives and the things that they do and the reason why they do things, I realized these are a strong bunch of women. And it started me on a quest. Her death started me on a quest to say, look, I'm going to look at some of these women, not all, and what can I do? And as a print designer, I just thought, I'm going to design prints. I'm going to design some print and I'm going to dedicate them to each of these women. So the first print I did, obviously, was my mom. And the second print I did was Rudi's mom, because we were talking about it. My mom's one is not as colorful because her tastes are slightly different. This is my mom's print. And the reason why it's just a check pattern is because my mom, her whole wardrobe was full of checks. She loved checks. She loved the madras. She loved all the different checks that Jamaica had and West Indian have. But I designed a check print specific for her in the colors that she likes. I designed this for Rudi's mom and also Derek's mom. Actually, the scarf I have on my head is actually designed for Derek's mom to commemorate Debbie's mom. Now, the thing about these women, and I've got the stories of 12 of them so far, and eventually I'd like to get more, but I'm starting with 12. And I've done prints for all 12, believe it or not. There's this one here, which is dedicated to, I don't know if you know Connie Marks, which was a great friend of my mom's. This is dedicated to Connie Marks. There are prints dedicated to, okay, another friend of hers, Jean Martin. Again, Jean was a force to be reckoned with. And I was fascinated by thinking, all these women are so strong. They're dedicated. They did all these things for us. They paved the way, but they're not talked about. When they die, they're going to be forgotten. So for me, my print collection is a way of making sure that at least some of them are remembered. But the important thing is when people engage with the collection, they also engage with themselves because they engage with the women in their lives. So I start a conversation by explaining to them, develop that, that knowledge of the women in your life, the Windrush women, even if they've gone already. So far, I've done workshops with people where I teach them how to draw a print, and I speak to them about getting the history of the woman that they're drawing the print for. Because before you can actually design something for someone, you need to get to know them. And that's the most important thing. So I'm on a mission basically to get all the people that I come in contact with to understand the importance of legacy. Write it down. If you can't write it down, draw it, but do something with it. Take pictures, but create a legacy, an album, and remembrance of those women. And not just those women from that generation, the women now. I want my children to do the same thing for me. And if we do those things, it will basically keep us alive, even when we're gone physically, but we're still within the sphere of influence. And I think that's the most important thing. So for me, the Windrush Legacy print is about remembering, moving forward at the same time. So we're remembering the people from the past, we're honoring them, we're telling their stories, and we're telling our children and our children's children that they need to remember to tell the stories of their elders. And that's it, really.
Thank you very much, Karen. That was great. And I'm glad you mentioned Connie Marks, because Connie was instrumental in raising awareness on Mary Seacole in the 1980s, who'd been forgotten for about 150 years.
Sorry to cut you. The funny thing is, my mom knew Connie, and Connie dragged me to her whenever she did her talks and her stuff, and said, you've got to get involved in this, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. She was a great woman. And you're right, she dragged us to the Mary Seacole gravestone in Kensal Rise to make sure that people remember it and never forget it. She was a great woman.
She really was. And I remember as well, when I was the project manager for Guys in St. Thomas for Mary Seacole's bicentennial celebrations, we actually had an exhibition, a Mary Seacole exhibition in the Florence Nightingale Museum. And it was great that she could make it, And so, so it's going to be, or continues to be, well remembered. But you're right, she's not had the recognition that I think she should have from our community, particularly when it relates to nursing and midwifery, where many of our communities came from. And again, there's always time, and
Yeah,
it will
there
happen.
is.
Right. Thank you very much, Carol. Great. Rose, over to you.
Hi, so my name's Rose. As I said, I am a community champion. I work with the company Morrison's. During the COVID time, well, pre-COVID, I've been working with community. I love community. It's something I really enjoy. It's 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 exciting because obviously you get to see people in different ways, and you get to know through people, actually get to know more about yourself actually. So and then during the COVID period, which was really low for all of us, I came up with an idea called Seeds of Hope. I wrote to the CEO of Morrison's, and he kindly listened to what I had to say, and so they made it a strategy. It's it went all around the country. It was around. So here's the Seed of Hope. This was what it. This is, so it's filled with seeds, and it was basically about lifting the thoughts and the hearts of those who were in lockdown, and that was many of us. So about, I think it was 5 million packets of seeds were given out free. Yeah, it was just really exciting to think that people would be doing something and I would have something to do with that. But most of all, it was giving people hope, and this is something that's dear to my heart. So I'm a Christian, and so hope for me is a massive thing, and I think that's how I approach my community work, is hoping that I can give people the support and help in areas where I'm needed. Yeah, I'm trying to think, because when you're on the spot and you're being like, and plus it's live, oh my gosh. It just really,
Well, you've done well. You've done well.
yeah, it's really just saying about
you've done well.
who I am as a person, and what I love doing, and my passion.
And I should say, the work that we've done in the past, linked to the NHS, called Healthy Living and Lifestyles, to focus on the Caribbean, focus on the Windrush. Giving away of 1,100 bottles of water. 1,000 pieces of fruit.
And this wasn't over years. This was true in quite a short period of time.
Absolutely.
But it was really exciting. Yeah.
And then your support for colleagues in the Wood Green, and the Ealing store.
Yeah.
So again, you've given back and supported colleagues who are supporting the community. And I think that's the real message that we really want to get across. And of course, it's people from all backgrounds. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd now like to move over to Trinidad and Tobago. Nicole, over to you.
Hello, yes. Greetings from the warm Caribbean. Well, the hot Caribbean, I should say. Yeah, so hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. In my profession, I am an image consultant, and I'm also a PR and communications strategist. But I also have a passion when it comes to empowering others. So when it comes to giving back to the community, that is something that I hold very close to my heart. I typically would mentor youths and young adults. They are our future. Not that I'm old, but they are our future. They are the ones who are coming up. So it really feels important to me to impart my knowledge and share my experiences with them so that they have some point of reference. What I have seen in a lot of youths and even adults is that they are sometimes so afraid to show their whole selves, to show their skills, to show their entire personality, right? They want to suppress it. They don't know what people would think, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to showcase it. So for me, in bringing that true essence out of them, that is something that's important to me, because to me personally, you cannot fully achieve your goals and realize your dreams if you are suppressing parts of yourself and if you are hiding in the shadows. I always say, if you stay in the shadows, nobody is going to see you. How do you want somebody to see you if you're in the shadows? You have to step out of the shadows, and you have to share yourself with other people and reach to that point where you're confident enough to say, this is me, this is who I am. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way. I don't mean that in a, an aggressive way, in that you're never going to change the not so pleasant parts of you. But I just mean being flawsome. You have your flaws, but you're awesome as well. And that is something that I try to tap into with people. The mentorship initiative that I have is called Empire Ready. And I don't just do it for the youths and young adults of Trinidad and Tobago. I do it for people in other countries as well. Because at the end of the day, although sometimes culture plays a part in how people operate and how they think, at the end of the day, they're being the same age or being within the same age groups, some of them have the same issues, the same problems, the same limitations. So for me, giving of my time, giving of my efforts to just really let them know that, listen, somebody is here to listen, not to judge, but to really help you to expand your territory and also to climb, and increase what you give to the world. That's what's important to me. So I try my best to do it. I started the Empire Ready initiative in 2019 officially. Before, I just used to do it when I was invited by friends, to do presentations for their groups. When the pandemic started, I started doing online sessions. I collaborated with some organizations and individuals, but now I really want to sink my teeth into it. So I've pivoted a few times, but it's, at least I'm there and I'm doing it. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I really want to continue to do.
Thank you for that, Nicole. And just to say as well, over the next 4 weeks at 10:30 p.m. on Wednesday evenings, starting from this evening, we'll actually be featuring a podcast that Nicole recently produced. So thank you very much for that, Nicole.
Yes,
I'd like to now move to Tandy and Ketty. Thank you. So we're moving over from Trinidad to South Africa.
Well, greetings from Reunion Island, actually, but certainly flying South African flag. I am a South African dynamic content producer. In South Africa, worked mainly as a singer and a songwriter and a band manager, but also this music then became the passport for me, enabled me to travel and open my mind to the reality of our continent. And I believe I've then developed as a Pan-Africanist my voice and the content of my work as a social activist and a cross-cultural exchange advocate, working in understanding of arts administration and management of the intricacies of the business of music. Then I relocated to Reunion Island, and post-COVID, I founded Campaign Africa in collaboration with Africa Global Radio, which is another female-owned online radio station out in Ghana. And together we, since 2022, have been producing annual production series that focuses on Programming for Africa Month. in May with a drive to ignite the Africa tour circuit for the creative and cultural industries, focusing on a lot more of intracontinental social economic enrichment. As a Pan-Africanist and as a mother, I have a 19-year-old who's based in South Africa studying film production because she has come to understand the need to research and tell our stories. And in Reunion Island, I'm raising an almost 7-year-old with special needs. He's born deaf. And so we are in the program with the cochlear transplants. And this has opened me up to yet another community that exists that we as hearing people don't necessarily get to understand, and to look at it, to experience it in South Africa and Reunion Island, and just look at the gaps of what is available as a service, as your birthright in a French island, to 4 hours away in South Africa where hearing is not tested at birth. So these are the social issues that one wants to explore and feel and see how we can, throughout our communities, be able to enrich or bring about change that is in fact a basic service that is necessary within the continent. In Reunion Island, I'm also working with an association called Terre Vert. They are in the arts. I'm a production manager and also part of the band, and we are actually in preparation for next month, where we'll be receiving 3 artists from India to do a collaboration with them for a big show that we are having at Cité des Arts in the main city here at Saint-Denis on the 19th of April. So I'm in the arts, but I'm also in the social development spaces. Definitely one other important thing before I finish, I wanted to speak about post-COVID as well. Part of us really getting into the online, I discovered the banana fiber extraction and application, and so have been researching and developing networks to explore the banana fiber extraction application. Currently working in partnership with my sister Tandy, who's out in South Africa, in St. Lucia. So this is about, I'm passionate about women working together. I'm passionate about solution-based initiatives and activities, and just awakening and creating awareness of the plight that we are in comparison to the West, and how do we bridge the gap between ourselves, because it is us who are going to make these things come to light. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And hence our theme, Women Power Renewal. Tandy, over to you. We can't hear you, Tandy. We seem to have lost Tandy's sound for the moment. We'll try one more time. No, we can't hear you, Tandy. Oh dear. Right. We'll go to Antoinette, then come back to you, Tandy.
Thanks, Rudi. Hoping Tandy gets back online. Good evening, everyone. My name's Antoinette Page. Apologies, I'm not on camera. I have youngsters at home doing some homework in my area. So apologies for not being on camera. I know we're broadcasting live. So I'm Antoinette Page. I have had the honour to work with Rudi for many, many years. We met whilst I was putting together an organisation that was based in the UK, but helping young people in Jamaica. So the work I was doing at that time, I was feeding over 200 children in early year settings in Jamaica. That work was born out of my constant passion and interest in being reconnected to my roots. From that piece of work, I span off into my own organization called Heritage Consultancy Network. And similar to Karen, it came at a time where I started to do a lot of conversations, a lot of research on my grandparents' heritage, my mother's heritage, my father's heritage, all based in Jamaica. And I was realizing again that a lot of my family had so much stories to share, but they weren't being documented. And we wasn't, you know, we were finding lots and lots of stories that were being told, but there was nowhere to find these memories. So I started out on a quest through my company with my son. He's a digital filmmaker and technologist, and we've now started to capture the community stories. So hence the motto of my company is to preserve and promote African Caribbean cultural traditions and legacy. And that's what we're working on, and that's the work we do. We do that through archiving, documentation, and I'm a content writer. So that's how we go about collecting stories. We've had the pleasure of capturing my father's story. He was one of the first sound systems to play at the Apollo nightclub, and he had worked closely with the Palmers. And I don't know if many of you know, but sadly we lost Jeff Palmer a few weeks back. However, we wasn't able to capture Mr. Palmer's story. So once again, the importance of us as a community that we should be documenting to the point of writing, photographs, filming. We really need to get better at retaining that memory, that chain of thought for the future generations. Outside of that, I've worked in the community space. I'm a culturalpreneur. I've done many, many initiatives. I am an alumni for the Brit School. I've been with them since 2019. I've been fortunate enough to have had a long career already of over 20 years in the commercial space. There have been times where I've been the only person of colour sitting on boards, sitting with directors at banks, fast food companies, manufacturing, communication, and also technology. I'm now with a philanthropic organisation. We're the second largest philanthropic organisation in the world. And I'm really proud that I found somewhere that I can actually work, but also bring myself to work. And that's what I share with my young people. Don't ever be ashamed or afraid to bring yourself to work. We all have a voice and we all have a story to tell, and we hold that with us at the forefront. So thank you, Rudi, for this space. I feel honoured to be among this panel. And, you know, I look forward to continuing the connections.
Well, thank you very much, Antoinette, because Antoinette did a lot of work over the last couple of years with us on the Homeward Bound programme for Jamaica, and also the first Windrush Anchor Festival in Jamaica, and made a significant, or played a significant role in that in terms of bringing UNESCO Jamaica on board. Because once we got UNESCO Jamaica on board, that then leveraged the involvement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Culture, the Anglican Church. And so that enabled us to have quite a big impact. And that festival was significant because it's the first time a neighborhood-based festival was actually getting the recognition at that national level. And that was the 5 communities that make up Augustown. So our activities are really about that neighborhood, those communities that are not always remembered. So thank you for that. And Tandy, we'll go to you.
Thank you, Rudi. Sorry about that glitch, everyone. Good evening again. I'm Tandy Shabalala. I'm from South Africa, from a very small town in Uni called St. Lucia, a town almost similar to, from what I hear, to the St. Lucia on your side. So I represent Ingani Creation. which I'm a founder of. And as my mentor, Katie, said just now, we are working with women, giving them skills. So for Inkani, our main purpose is to add value to people's livelihoods by assisting them in everything that they are doing, whatever skills that they have or where they need skills. We then try and give them skills so that they can be able to sustain themselves. So you just said earlier on, Rudi, that women are the backbone kind of things where they are responsible for educating the youth as well. So that's our main focus. Inkani Creation is focused on uplifting women and youth specifically. So that's what we are doing. We teach them skills, and Katie came up with this a concept of using banana to produce fiber. So we are excited. Women here are so excited about getting started on that. Our company was registered last year, so we are about a year old, and we are already doing various things to try and assist women to be able to stand up for themselves. And we know that when you educate a woman, you are educating not only the family, you are not only feeding the family, but you are sustaining the whole society. So we believe very much in that. But another aspect to what Inkani is doing is to also document our stories and people's stories, focusing on culture, focusing on history, focusing on religion and spirituality, amongst other things. So we just look forward to start getting that side of things going as well, to ensure that people know where they come from, so they will know where they are going. That's where Inkani is at.
Right, great. And what we did do with Tandy, we did a live link between St. Lucia in South Africa and St. Lucia in the Caribbean. And what was great about what Tandy did, not only explain the local economy and how important it was that the local people got good jobs, but also the focus on young people to actually understand that there's a pathway for them to get the skills and get jobs within their local community. So of course that helps the neighborhood, and of course raises the self-esteem, and it really contributed to our thinking when we talk about community economic tourism. And that's what was special about what Tandy did on that day, because you had key decision makers, and because it was live, we could actually see what was going on. We saw the culture as part of it, so it was an excellent occasion. So it was a learning for us as well. That's the most important thing. So thank you very much for that, Tandy. Right, I'd like to go to Dorian next. Dorian, over to
everyone.
You.
Hi. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad I was able to make it down the A10. However, as Rudi pointed out, my name is Dorian Wilson. I'm a doctor of professional practice. I'm an academic, university lecturer, and a visiting professor of religion and multiculturalism. So in order to explain how I got here, I'm going to sort of rewind a little bit, because as pointed out, history, stories, those narratives need to be shared and disseminated. And I'll go back to a critical learning experience. As a child, I was looking forward to start school. I'd heard all the stories that my relatives, my parents and so on kept telling us about my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, who was a maths teacher. He started out as a maths teacher and became an entrepreneur and a politician in Jamaica. And so I hung on to that title, teacher. And at a young age, I decided that's what I wanted to do. So very excited, couldn't wait to start school. That day came. I went to a Catholic school taught by nuns who were cruel, who told me that the only place I will go is to hell because I was a black child and left-handed. and I owed the devil a favor. They weren't the kind of teachers I was expecting. Fast forward a little bit, another critical incident. First significant exam, those days O-levels, my predicted grades were A's and B's. 9, I got 1A, 1B. I questioned the headmistress, who asked me to come back to her office at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, ushered me into the office. There were 2 of my fellow Black pupils like me. One, parents, again, all 3 of us, second generation. One, Angela's parents came from Barbados. Dothlin's parents came from Antigua. And they got unclassified. They were asking the same questions. If our predicted grades were A's, B's, and C's, how could they got unclassified? At least I got 1 of each. And instead of answering our questions, the headmistress lowered her glasses, looked at us, and asked us what we wanted to do career-wise. And Dothlin said she wanted to be a midwife. Angela said she wanted to be a barrister. I said I wanted to be a teacher or a solicitor, a lawyer. And she said, oh, no, 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 girls. Those are called professions and not for people of your colored background. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you each a reference to the tomato factory that was opening up on the high street. The words, "stuff your tomato factory," came out of my mouth before I could even think. And I walked out of school that day. And I pledged I was going to be the very thing that you would assume people from my background would never be. So that's how I got here today as an academic. And I pledged to ensure that I would be in a forum in a classroom to give the opportunities to people of my background and others who are disaffected, marginalized, to demonstrate your color has nothing to do with your intelligence or your ability or your future. And as a direct result, I also weaved in, because I'm a diversity expert, a multiple award winning, and I have helped many, primarily Black pupils, stop them from leaving university. They have succeeded when some of them predicted grades were 3rd class, and they come out with merits and distinction, get good careers, and they still keep in contact with me year after year. So I was raised in a family, and the mantra was education, education, education. I give my little bit back by planting those seeds of hope as a mother, as I have done with my own children, and as a woman of color who has overcome and continues to overcome barriers and challenges to make sure that I leave a legacy, and that my epitaph, which I want to read, at least she tried. That's me.
Thank you very much, Dorian. And you've done a lot more than try. We'd be here for the rest of the evening if we went through your accomplishments. But there is one that I want to mention. So Dorian is the co-chair of the Synergy program, and the Synergy project, which I was responsible for 25 years ago in North London, Middlesex University Business School, wrote the case study. And in fact, on our LinkedIn profile at the moment, there's a dialogue with Professor Akinfada Hunzi, and we discuss that program. And I'm really pleased that Dorian, being at Middlesex University and co-chairing the Synergy program, that means all that learning and that knowledge transfer is back in the academic space. And over the next few months, with Professor Badahunzi, Leah Galadi, who wrote the North London Creative Industry Strategy, and Dorian and myself, we will be thinking about how we take all that learning from 25 years ago and then share that knowledge for the next 25 years, but at least to 2030, which is a measure point for the Sustainable Development Goals. And academics now are saying that there needs to be an acceleration towards those goals. And the Synergy is an implementation support program. So that is going to be an extensive piece of work. And so I'm really pleased that Dorian is the co-chair for that.
I'm very pleased too. Can I say just one
Absolutely.
thing to conclude? I'm a believer in practicing what I preach. I'm also an artist, and so the painting behind me is called Strength. And we all, as women, have the strength to succeed.
Absolutely. Right, so as we're coming to the end of the program, we're going to have Dr. Dwayne Neal, who's going to talk about his mother, and the same with Derek Clement to close the show. Thank you.
Rudi, thanks very much for the opportunity. It is so inspiring to hear the things that the earlier speakers are doing, have been doing. And I feel really good about the future, knowing that we've got motivated folks like that, not just in the UK, but in many other countries. So keep on doing what you're doing. When I realized that it was an opportunity to talk about my mother, I jotted down a few points, and I'm surprised to discover how many of those things that she did, and I noted as a boy and as a young man, have featured very highly in my own life. And it's only when you reflect on things that some of these moments emerge. But let me tell you our situation, and by that I'm talking about my mother. Her name was Ambrosine Neal, and she's been gone now for a while. She passed in 1994. But to me, she's the lioness that saved the Neal family, our nuclear family. And why do I say that? When I was 10, my father died. And that was only about a year to 18 months after the family was united. We're a Jamaican family. They chose to come to the UK in the early 60s because both my parents wanted to give us the education they could not afford to pay for if we had stayed in Jamaica. So Dad came first, saved, sent for my mum. They then worked and saved, sent for the 5 of us. When we arrived, there was a young brother, so we were a family of 6. But sadly, after about a year to 18 months of being together, he passed. He was ill, he had a stroke, he died. But I was just 10 at the time, and I was the second eldest. So we had 6 children between the ages of 3 and 14. And Mum was not many years in this country. So you can imagine the panic and the upset on her part. We were all gutted to lose our father, but Mum was gutted to lose her life partner because they were such a good couple together. Nevertheless, she took on the job of looking after all 6 of us by building her dressmaking business. She was a dressmaker from Jamaica, and she grew that business over the years of my young life. So she went from having 1 sewing machine to half a dozen sewing machines. And she was able to take over 1 whole floor of our 4-story townhouse in northwest London. So she turned her business into the salvation that saw all 6 of us grow into being graduates and postgraduates. So looking at her life, I then discovered that while I was away at university, she started an education charity. Why? Because in the early 70s, the expulsion of Black children from school was at epidemic level. And my mother was a compassionate lady. So even though she was running her business, even though she was still raising her children, she made the time to start the charity with some other parents and to give advice and support to those more distressed parents that she knew. And so I saw compassion in action through the actions, firstly, of my father before he died, and secondly, of my mother, even while she was working in her business. And that compassion has never left me, because I've continued to give back from I started work back in 79. The other thing which was seared into me is a desire to have my own business, because from a boy of 10, I saw my mother not only running her own business, but growing her own business. So no one should be surprised to find that I started my own business and ran it for the best part of 17 years. And on the back of that, made my family financially secure. So in my retirement, I don't have to be worried about my children being destitute. Because again, one of the things I learned from my mother was her commitment to the family, to seeing us all into adulthood. And that's made me a committed father of 4. So no one should be surprised to hear me saying 3 boys and a girl, all went to university, all distinguished themselves. And I, credit my mother with setting the direction, establishing the blueprint in compassion, in being independent, in generating your own wealth, but also taking full responsibility for your children. Now, Rudi, I'm not going to say anything more about the things I'm doing as Reach Society, but what I'm really echoing is how much those years of growing up and observing what my mother was doing had stayed with me and has influenced my decisions and the direction of my life. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Dwayne, and so well put as usual. And of course, the work that you are doing with Reach is important. There's not many organisations that are giving over 1,000 young people every year the opportunity to access the university system and support them with opportunities and give them clarity in terms of where the pathways are. So thank you for that. So to end, I'm going to ask Derek Clement, guardian of the Afro realm, to close the show. Thank you, Derek.
Right, listen, guys, good evening. Thank you very much, Dwayne. That was remarkable. Karen, resonating speech. Dorian, I'm also Wilson, by the way, so we got the same name. Tandy, Rose, Antoinette, just remarkable stuff. Now, so my mother, I've written 2 books, and my mother's on one of the first books. And when you open the book, it begins with a photograph of my mother, and it says, "My mother, my queen, my angel." Now listen to Dwayne give a diamond speech on his mother's performance. I remember as a young man, my mother being the only person in my life. I just read recently, somebody said, what's the most important thing in a child's life? Is it the mother and the father? Is it a good home? Is it food on the table? Is it love? And the writer said the most important thing in a child's life is a mother who's mentally and has a strong sense of well-being. If the mother is fully centered, then that child will be okay. So my mother was my bedrock. There's no father around. There's a single parent family. My mother rose 4 children. As Karen said of Rudi's mother, who arrived in the UK at 19, my mother came to this country at a similar age. And she had to now set about to now get the others into England by herself. There was no man around. So my mother sent for her 4 sisters in the UK. Having done all of that, she had to now sort of ensure that monies were sent back to the Caribbean to ensure that my grandmother was okay, and her cousins and her other siblings, her nieces and nephews. So listen to you guys. I mean, my mother would have been the pre-runner of you guys, the founders of what we call phenomenal women. Now, my mother had a wonderful job. She was a nurse at Acton Hospital. She actually ran the hospital by herself. It's interesting, there's a time when my mother wanted to buy a house. That was in early 1960s. And in those days, a woman couldn't buy a house. You had to have a male partner or somebody a man to make life, to make it simple. And my mother couldn't find a male partner to help her to buy this house. So she waited up until the 70s. And she bought our council flat that was given back in 1969. And after that, she bought a house in Brixton, all by her lonesome. And she bought a house in the Caribbean, in my village, and she built a house in St. George's. Now, this is one single woman, no help from a man, nowhere. So listen to Dwayne talk about his mother is quite interesting, because I feel a similar sense of sort of drive. Now, she ensured that I was taken care of. She took my money every week for my salary back in the day and saved my money for me without me even knowing. She put the money in a susu. 5 years later, my mother gave me £5,000. I was able to buy my house in 1983 in Harrow. This is all because of my mother's doing. So watching you guys this evening is quite encouraging, because it means, therefore, that the struggle has never stopped. It continues to go on from generation to generation. That's my contribution, guys. Great evening. Loving the show. It's been brilliant.
Thanks for that, Derek. A great summary. And I would once again thank you all for joining us for Esther Eleanor Lee, Women Power Renewal. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thanks, Rudi.
wonderful.
Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.